Morning and welcome back to Sports Today. So we are still, I don't know about you guys, but all of us here are still reeling at what we saw as one of the biggest upsets in the history of the ICC World Cup, because you had Afghanistan beat defending world champions England to register only their second ever victory in the history of the ICC World Cup. Remember, their first one had come in 2015 all the way back against Scotland, and 2019 they ended up going winless. But in 2023 it did look like they were in danger of doing precisely that. However, they ended up landing what could potentially be, in the long run, a knockout blow to the defending world champions in England. And of course, when that happens, when a result like this comes, obviously there is plenty of, let's say, celebration and praise that is put the way of the underdog team. However, what also then follows is just, let's just say, a little bit of a deeper analysis as to where exactly things went wrong for the English team. Now, of course, England had a slow start to the World Cup. They were unable to beat, let's say, New Zealand in the opener, lost pretty comprehensively, bounced back with a win, albeit not a very convincing one, against Bangladesh, but now have lost to Afghanistan. And naturally, what this does is, as I said, not only does it inspire analysis, it will also lead to a lot of people, let's say, sounding a bit of a warning shot for them, because, it's such a tournament that you would need at least 6 wins, at least 6, if you are to be in contention for that top 4 spot. And even that 6 is not a guarantee, because you could very well be looking at, let's say, multiple teams getting there. So then it really comes down to net run rate, right? Now, with England, the warning signs are there, because they have 6 games left now and they need to be winning at least 5 of them. So hardly the best place to be. But you're not here to talk about, or we are not here, let's say, to talk about what it is that England could or could not be doing. We're going to talk about the reactions, and who better to look at in terms of reactions. You had 2 very interesting reactions come through, one from Sachin Tendulkar, one from Sehwag on their Twitter accounts, or X accounts, depending on what it is you really want to be talking about. First off, let's look at what Sachin said, and it was a pertinent reading, let's say, of where it is that England struggle. It was their inability to deal with the Afghanistan spinners, and this is why he feels, or why Sachin feels, they were struggling. This is what his post said. He said that it's a wonderful all-round effort by Afghanistan, led by a solid knock from Ramanal Gurbaz. Bad day for England. And this part really is key. He says that against quality spinners, you have to read them from the hand, which the England batters failed to do. They read them off the pitch instead, which I felt led to their downfall. Now, that part really is key, because if you remember, the biggest downfall really, as far as England was concerned, was their inability to, let's say, read the Afghanistan spinners. And there's no denying the fact that Afghanistan spinners were on form throughout, and they were assisted well by a pitch that did offer plenty of turn. Even England spinners were finding plenty of joy, and that was in the first innings. But England shot themselves in the foot by not being able to, let's say, read the spinners off their hand. What they were trying to do is figure out how it is going to spin based on where it was pitching, and therefore they were unable to, let's say, read them properly. Sehwag had a rather more direct, let's say, assessment of things. He said that both England and Australia are going to struggle to reach the top 4. Now, of course, England have lost 2 games out of 3, which means now that out of their remaining 6, they will need at least 5 wins, if not all. Similar with Australia, they've played only 2 matches, and they will, of course, be taking on, their third match will also be coming up soon. But of the 2 matches, they've lost both. They, of course, ended up losing pretty comprehensively to South Africa. They lost very comprehensively to India as well. So not the best of times, really, if you're looking at both these teams. And both, by the way, were teams that we had pegged as being 2 of the undisputed favorites, along with India, coming into this particular edition of the ODI World Cup. Good news if you're an India fan, but if you're someone who has, let's say, support for Australia and England, then definitely it's reaching a point now where every single thing will be must win. Now, of course, neither team is technically out yet, and that is something that Jos Buttler was at pains to point out after the defeat to Afghanistan. He said very clearly that, full credit to them, but when he was asked about what it is that England can do to get better from here, his response yesterday after the match was very simple. He said that, I think you've got to let these defeats hurt. There's no point in just trying to move on very quickly, although you've got to do it as quickly as you can. So interesting response, because he's saying that, look, you need to let it hurt, but you also then need to let it hurt absorb that feeling and then move past it, because there is still, of course, you remember, plenty to play for. Obviously, the games upcoming for England are definitely on the tougher side. They've got matches against Australia, South Africa, and India, and those are going to be the key matches really when it comes to their World Cup qualification for the semi-finals, I feel, because again, they would be considered favourites against the teams that come beyond that. But South Africa, India, and of course Australia, those are going to be the key games. And considering the fact that even Australia are in a similar predicament whereby they need to win all games, you could very well be seeing that Ashes rivalry in the World Cup determine which of the two Ashes rivals actually make it into the next round. So it's been a good time really in that regard, that you're getting plenty of upsets in the World Cup. You've seen, now Afghanistan beat England, and I think that is something that's really added a lot of spark to the World Cup. If you guys want to see just how much spark, you can go ahead after this video is done, check out what we've done on Sports Today. Yesterday we went and interacted with some Afghanistan fans in New Delhi, because that's where the match happened to be, and you will see just how much it not only means to them, but how much confidence is given them going into another particular match. But that's, let's say, something we'll talk about later on. Moving on now from the sport of cricket and a little bit of football news, we'll run through this as quickly as possible. You have got more and more teams now being able to qualify for Euro 2024. You've had Scotland qualify, Spain have qualified, and now even Turkey have qualified. By the way, if any of you all are fans of Erling Haaland and Norway are still in with a chance, but they need to be finishing third in their group to ensure that they make the playoffs, whilst hoping that Serbia, who are in another group, also stay in the position they are right now. So definitely exciting times in that regard. Don't forget, it's not that exciting because again, there's no Premier League football this week, there's no La Liga, no club football basically, because it's international break week, but plenty of big things still happening in the world of football. And also don't forget, there's been a lot of talk or chatter around Manchester United when it comes to their takeover, and whilst the Qatar bid has in fact pulled out, Sheikh Jassim Al Thani said not really interested anymore. So Jim Ratcliffe, who of course owns Ineos, have potentially moved one step closer. They will be, let's say, they've made a bid for about 25% of the club, and perhaps more key, they believe that 25% should come with control of the sporting decisions. Of course, they haven't quite voted yet, the United board, to make that official, but if it does happen, it could potentially lead to a full takeover by the Ineos group down the road, as far as, let's say, getting the Glazers out is concerned. So interesting times going on there, really. And even more interesting, if you're a fan of Leo Messi and you've been someone who's been following his travails at Inter Miami, you'd know that Inter Miami ended up missing out on the playoff spot for the MLS. So really, as far as the off-season goes, not much action going on for them, but they have ensured that they will be able to cash in on the superstardom of Messi. Why so? Because they have organized a couple of friendlies that will be taking place in China, and it will be taking place next month in November, at around the time when the MLS playoffs will be starting. Of course, Inter Miami not in action, they've been knocked out of contention, but you will get to see Messi going back to China once again. And we'll end this morning wrap with a bit of India-centric news that could have been a little better, but it's still really hats off to the man who we are talking about. Rohan Bopanna and his doubles partner Matthew Ebden unfortunately ended up finishing second best in the Shanghai Masters men's doubles final. However, the fact that they even made it there, remember, Bopanna is having a bit of a golden run in what is definitely the last legs of his career. 43 years old, he was winning medals at the Asian Games as well, and now this time around could potentially be taking part in the ATP finals in the men's doubles draw alongside Ebden. So despite the fact that they lost out in the Shanghai Masters, pretty good all-round year for him, and you'd hope that he can in fact do good when it comes to the ATP finals as well. Unfortunately, this is all that we have time for in this particular video. Thank you guys so much for joining us though in this edition of the Morning Wrap with Sports Today. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to let us know by liking it, sharing it with your friends, subscribing to the channel, tap that bell icon if you haven't already, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTag app, and if you're already on the channel, check out some other videos we've done, including plenty that we've done regarding England's upset loss to Afghanistan. See how it is that the Afghanistan fans reacted. We've covered that and so much more. And of course, don't forget, stay tuned to Sports Today. Plenty more coming your way through the day. For now, from my side, it's goodbye.